Welcome everyone to Stargate's Oral History Project. What kind of opening was that? Mark, dial the gate. Welcome back to Dial the Gate. How are you, my
Thank you
friend?
very much, sir. I'm well. And again, I love being on just to see your back wall. You should have, you should have your camera open 24 hours a day so people can just open it and be happy. Like you can be your own Christmas fireplace channel.
If it's open 24 hours a day, the toys wouldn't jump down and do their own thing because people would be always watching them.
It's so
So,
impressive. It's so cool to see.
uh,
And thank you. I want to thank you in advance for doing this because it's so, deeply, deeply humbling. And I'm so honored that, people have an interest 16 plus years later of something that we did. And you're kind of the driving force between of everything. And, it just shows, how great the fandom is and you yourself. Like I looked at 424 this is episode.
yeah, I'm very blessed, and thank you for those words. I think that there are a lot of moving parts to it and a lot of people responsible, and I mean we have a fourth television series coming. Can you
I
believe
know.
this?
It's insane. It's so exciting and it's such an exciting world for it to happen.
They
And
can do anything
I,
now.
I know, I know. And with Martin at the helm, I think it's going to be incredible. He's such a driving creative force, and with Brad involved, Joe involved, you know, I think it's going to be incredible, and the fandom should be so excited about this because it
Agreed.
is
We have people who
spectacular.
love the series and who recognize the essence of what it is. So
Yeah,
they've really um, they've really got this thing set up to succeed, and I'm looking forward to taking that journey again for sure because it's one of those
yeah.
that just it's evergreen. So
Oh, well, it's I think the trust that's there and the trust of the people that are doing it is incredible. And not to get too off topic right away, but tangent,
please,
like I like to
it's your
do.
show.
Um, Speaking of reboots, can you imagine the Buffy reboot?
Yes,
Or you've heard about that?
I heard about the cancellation of it.
The cancellation, and then Sarah Michelle Gellar's come out and she said, there was a studio executive who walked around the whole time we were shooting or whatever that, and this is all speculation, so I'm saying it, but walked around the whole time we were shooting and said, I was never really a fan of the original series, and I never saw many episodes, but I just didn't like it. I'm like, why are you involved in this series then? Like,
This is
can you
not.
imagine something like that happening on Stargate if somebody went up to Martin, Gero, or Brad and just said, I saw a couple of episodes of some of the Stargate series and didn't really like it, wasn't a fan.
So
Because I'm sure she has come out publicly and said that, like, that it was, kind of a disaster because they had somebody in place who,
so they were in production, you're saying?
yeah, and
I
they
didn't know
weren't
it got that far.
attached to the show. Like they had no stakes in the game, right?
No, not at all.
And
So
I don't,
there, Are you aware of Stargate Origins, which came out a few years
yes,
ago? Okay,
yes,
they got the dial home device,
yeah.
and it was put on upside down.
Really?
I don't think I've shared this story. I hope I don't get in trouble for it. The horns were on the bottom.
Right,
They
right.
didn't know how it went.
Hmm.
So it was, I was very fortunate because I was with MGM as a consultant at that time. And so I got to provide input on the script. And so
Right,
there are beats in the script, references to SG-1 canon specifically. There's a reference to the Germans took the DHD, and then it was when Germany was sacked by the Russians, then the Russians took it, and blah 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 blah. And so those things were inserted, but there was no one on set to kind of handle any of the series minutia. They
Right.
just knew the film. And so I know that kind of tightrope walk, but if you're going around being all mopey about the fact that especially today when
Yeah.
you're not promised anything anymore, that's not
No.
really appropriate.
Absolutely not. And just, it's so disrespectful of what's come before.
That's right.
Like to the fans and everybody involved in the original series, it's so disheartening. But
Yeah.
I'm sure that's not going to happen. And I'm sure Brad and Martin and Joe won't take any of that if that ever did happen.
I don't see Martin allowing that to happen at all.
Like there's too much history there, like in 15 years of, of content, and it's just, you can't ignore it. And
17 seasons.
Yeah.
And Darren and I just announced a couple of days ago, a couple of days ago now, Industrial Light and Magic is going to be one of the visual effects houses involved.
Oh, awesome.
In this series.
That's fantastic.
The guy who did the supervisor for Andor and Rogue One, he's coming on to do it's like,
oh, that's amazing. That's so cool.
What are you working on right now? What's going on with you?
Myself, I'm working on a show called Tracker on CBS.
Okay.
With Justin Hartley starring in it. We're just finishing in the next couple of weeks our third season, where we went from 13 episodes in the first season to 20 in the second and 22 this year.
That never happens anymore.
No, doesn't happen anymore. So
hour long?
Hour long, so yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and it is like kind of, it is the #1 show on broadcast TV. And I think it's up there post-broadcast, too. It's like number 3 or 4 behind Stranger Things and something else. So it's an incredibly popular show, and the cast and the producers like Elwood Reed and Ken Olin and Justin are great. And it's just been a nice show to be on and a nice run to have. I watched Carrie's interview and everybody's saying, nobody does 20 up anymore. And, we're doing 22. I don't know what we're doing. We're already renewed for season 4, so I don't know what that order is. But I heard
you've got it.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So again, it harkens back to the days where you work 10, 11 months and you're coming back to something with a month off, which is nice in this day and age.
For sure. And not going to necessarily have to go to the soup line, at the end of that's because nothing's guaranteed anymore. You know, the last time that we had you on, we had the conversation about artificial intelligence, not artificial intelligence, about the evolving landscape in visual effects. So all kinds of things were encompassed into that. Do you feel your footing under you better now than before? How are you feeling about how things are going in general, and not just specifically like your position and your career trajectory, but holistically?
My career has always been like 30 years ago. I thought, well, what am I going to do with my life after this ends? And it's always been that year after year after year until you finally go, I guess this is a career now. I don't have to look for something else. And, luckily I'm kind of, on more of the tail end of my career. Because I think it's a scary world out there. It's a scary environment. It's so unstable. And it lends itself to be that way because it's not a personal environment anymore. I don't believe. I think it's run by companies and decision makers who just, kind of have no skin in the game, really. And it's content. It's not art. Yeah.
Not that it all has to be art. It doesn't all have to be art. But even entertaining is not always the objective of content. Sometimes when I hear that term, I think keeping you busy, like something that I can do when I'm working out or when I'm doing the dishes.
Totally.
Rob Cooper, we had him on a few months ago, and he was like, I've pitched to Netflix, and they're like, no, now you're going to have to rewrite these scenes, because with the scenes that are in place, with the lines that are in place as they are, people who are casual in and out of the room, the characters need to tell the audience, they need to feed the audience what's happening. And Rob was like, well, why? It's like, well, because we want to make this accessible to a very casual viewer. And Rob was like, that's not that kind of show I want to work on.
Well, it was a big story with Ben Affleck, right? They said that about their Netflix show, right? Where they had to keep hammering in the plot details and exposition because of the way people watch TV now and do not pay attention. So they had specific notes where they had to go through what's been going on in the show so far and what's happening. I think it was that Safe House movie that just came out with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, the Netflix movie. And, it's such an interesting approach. But it all goes back to, I was thinking this when you talked about ILM being on the new Stargate, which is fantastic news. But 30 plus years ago, when I was first starting in this industry, a producer that I knew had a big giant poster on her wall that said, film is art, television is furniture.
Interesting.
Which it's come back to, like, people want to go to but then they blended together so well, TV and film, where people, in quality, you can't really tell the difference anymore, like good television and film.
Right. That's right. I mean, I can think of like Bravo, I would consider like that TV, but it's not like something I would really want to it's not appointment television,
No, there is some, which is great. I think Apple does a great job of doing less volume of shows and more quality of shows. Like, like Pluribus became a great show for me. I just loved it. So good. From the get-go. And, they concentrated on, like, Rhea Seahorn was just, like, instantaneously, she drew you into that world, and you never stopped.
Yeah.
Her world.
Despite the fact that she's a pain in the ass. She's unlikable. Exactly.
Unlikable character, but you just loved her somehow. And just went, she's doing such a fantastic job. And, shows like that are great, but we fell into the post-pandemic problem where too much content was being created. And I think it was because of the pandemic. Can you believe that's been only 6 years ago?
I feel every inch of it, because that's when Dial the Gate started. So it's
6 years ago. It feels like 35 years ago, yet 2 weeks ago at the same time, which is very bizarre.
Darren over at Gate World calls it the before times. Yeah,
exactly. But after the pandemic and during, everybody's like, we have to make content. And they built so much crap. And even Marvel fell into that trap where they were just trying to churn out everything and, as soon as possible, and really fell short on a lot of things. Have you seen the Spider-Man trailer?
It's okay.
I think it looks really good. Like, I think it looks stylized, but it looks good. Like
I got hung up on the music, but the last one was excellent. It's one of the few franchises underneath the Marvel banner, Sony banner, that tend to do very well. So I'm sure it will be great.
Well, and I think they have begun to concentrate more, because this is the only release before Doomsday, I think, right? Where they're not having 6 releases a year. It's like 1, 2 a year, which I think will benefit them greatly on what the final product is going to look like. Like that first shot of the city upside down, I love that. I thought that was amazing.
That is true. Yeah, him plummeting down and just the deadness in his eyes. He's just like, this is what happens when, you're in a pandemic and isolated from people forever. No one knows who you are anymore. You just kind of just want to wisp away. So no, I'm sure it'll
But
be
I
great.
feel like there's such a thing about, the secret sauce of television. And I know we'll talk a little bit about AI and whatnot,
Mhm.
but of a bunch of people getting together and collaborating.
Mm.
Instead of the way it's going is people are looked at more as dispensable, I believe. Like you look back at one of the greatest movies, I think, of, our current times in terms of visual effects, which still holds up, is Jurassic Park, right? An amazing movie. And when they were doing that, and Spaz Williams at ILM started
Yes.
making dinosaurs move, and people like Tippett and everybody else could have just went, well, I'm out of a job, I'm done. But
That's
everybody
right.
decided to collaborate and find new positions just to make the movie better. Instead of just saying, well, we can eliminate these jobs and save money, so let's get rid of Tippett, let's get rid of a bunch of people. But let's incorporate everybody's
Mhm.
knowledge and make something really friggin' good, right? And that's what
Mhm.
they did. But now, in terms of AI, it's looked at more. It will eliminate people's jobs, right?
We feel
And
like we've reached the end of the line. I mean, like
yeah, a little
bean
bit.
counting is so important now
It is.
because that wasn't the case when Spielberg was creating Jurassic Park. Like they still had a place for Go Motion, that
Yeah.
team,
Oh,
and it's like
absolutely.
they could give them that make them the animators of the creatures,
Exactly.
and I don't see that happening now.
And it was like everybody getting together, and that's your secret sauce of a movie, right? And you take away parts of that, and it becomes not that magical ingredients, right? Like you start losing, animators for some things to AI, or, even writing, which we've seen, like, Chat GPT writing and crap. But like it becomes a little bit soulless. And I know last time we talked about it, which is funny, because I was talking to a director yesterday about this, about how the bar has become Will Smith eating spaghetti.
Yes, we're there, man.
And now
Literally.
the latest Will Smith eating spaghetti is pretty darn good. It's pretty good.
And it took what, 2 years? It's pretty darn
We
extraordinary.
looked it up yesterday. It was 2.9 years ago. Yeah, was the original. And it moves so quickly exponentially that it just became like a steamroller thing. And I still believe that AI gets hurt by a little bit by branding. I don't believe it's artificial intelligence. I still believe it's machine learning, right?
Hmm.
It's not what it's proposed to be. It can be used as a tool to help artists, and people can use it to do their art better instead of replacing artists completely. And the one thing about AI is, that I always say, it doesn't know when it's wrong. Like I think they did an episode of The Pit about it where like people were getting misdiagnosed by AI, but it didn't know it was wrong. So it was just sending
Wow.
things to people and saying, well, this person has this person has that, and it totally makes sense where if there is
Yeah.
no backup checking, then there's going to be mistakes all over the place.
You can't take the human out of the process
No,
yet.
yeah, but yet, ever?
I
Like,
personally hope not ever, but at a certain point, like we're not going to be driving anymore
no,
because already the track record has proven that these automated cars can perform
paper.
better than we can. And when
Yeah.
one of them crashes, it's spectacular and it's everywhere. But it's like, okay, take a step back. Statistically, they're still safer than we are.
But that's
And
driving. That isn't art or film, television, music, like things that have a soul to them. Did driving ever
I
have a
agree.
soul? Will AI replace race car drivers and people will still show up?
People will always drive on closed tracks.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like they race horses on closed tracks.
And it's part of the human element that people love to see
Spectacle
something
and
live.
athleticism, yeah.
Yeah, and concerts, will they ever go away? I don't think so because
No.
people need that experience, right? They need that escapism to a certain degree. And I don't think you can do it fully by a soulless thing unless you're like Total Recall.
That's true. And live theater. I'm seeing a bit of a resurgence.
Yeah,
Perhaps it's just me, but I've been finding myself going to more performances lately.
really, that's
And I've been
awesome.
but I've been hearing that as well from other people who are like, you know what, I want to do a live show, a more intimate one with there there will always be, at least for our generations, um, a desire for something tangible,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
we need that because we resonate with that.
I went to a concert, it was like probably 4 or 5 months ago. And I was in there, it was one of my favorite bands.
Who'd you
And
see?
it was Iron Maiden, actually.
Okay.
No, it might have been AC/DC. It was AC/DC,
AC/DC. Okay.
which was funny. I'd never seen AC/DC in my life. So I saw
Okay.
AC/DC last year. And I was in there and I got on my phone to shoot one song that I liked. And I thought to myself, what the hell am I doing? Like everybody else shooting concerts, you see that all over the place, right?
Yeah.
So I put away my phone and said, I'm not gonna like record something that I'm like, will I watch it ever? It'll stay on my phone. Like, or do I want to be in the moment and enjoy this? And I put the phone away and I had the best time I had in a concert in years because I just enjoyed it. I wasn't worried about, oh, is my camera doing this? I just sat there and listened to the music.
Good for
And
you.
I had so much fun. Like I
Yeah.
would recommend it to anybody. Like put your phones down and just enjoy what you came to see, right?
Yeah.
Like
That's
who's
fair.
gonna watch like 17 videos that you took on your phone at a show? Like
Yeah.
unless you're posting them to something or whatever.
I would push back and be like maybe one song, but
Yeah,
also
maybe.
as a video creator myself, always having my hand out, I don't pay attention to the phone when it's in my hand. I can
Right.
see in my periphery that it's in the spot that I want, and I
Yeah,
make an
yeah.
eye contact. And
Yeah.
people who get lost in that's
Yeah.
complete. You've
That
completely
is
lost the
crazy.
plot.
But you look at
Yeah.
things like, and this is well off TV that we just went through, is
Yeah.
like the Swifties. They created this thing. No, honestly, they created this thing that was an event for everybody who went, and it was a personal thing. It wasn't a
Yeah.
digital thing. It wasn't anything else. It was something where people just came together and
It's
enjoyed
real.
themselves. And as we spoke about the pandemic, remember that time during the pandemic where everybody said, you know what? I think we should slow down, be nicer to each other, and like really appreciate the world more, appreciate ourselves more. Well, that lasted about 3 weeks after we were back out.
I know.
It didn't really
Yeah.
last after the fact. You know,
Humans are gonna human, man.
it would be good to get back to that spot again of let's enjoy our lives. Like it's so chaotic at the moment, not to get political at all, but it's such a crazy world right now that we're we're making it worse all the time. Just by like some of the things that expectations we're putting on. Like
Mm.
everybody expects AI at some point in time is just gonna make movies and be our entertainment without anybody else involved, right? And I talked to someone who was in this space a little bit, and they said the goal is to have your entertainment kind of personalized to you, right?
Like a
So
holodeck.
it's being fed to you exactly. But if you don't like something, it's not going to show it to you. It won't be involved in any of the shows that you watch. It'll be like custom made entertainment. which I think is completely the wrong way to go because, there are things in movies that you don't like that make you uncomfortable. And that's what makes them really good movies, right?
It
It's
can.
not, I don't want to see this. I don't want to see a dog dying. So the thing will never show you a dog dying in a movie. But sometimes a dog dying in a movie makes you uncomfortable, but it gives you that emotional thing that you need, to be uncomfortable. It pushes you. And I think we're going to be so complacent if that happens. We'll just be like sitting on our couches, just, it's so vanilla in a
With
way.
an IV in our arms, an entertainment IV.
Yeah,
Where's the
exactly.
fun in that? Where's the spontaneity? Where's the
Oh,
surprise?
totally. And if it doesn't push you or make you
Uh,
uncomfortable, then you're not getting a true emotional response. You're just looking at things that make you happy. It's just, watching puppy pictures all day. I'm just going, there's nothing else there. It's weird. It's a weird time.
it sure is. But I'm thrilled to have you on because I've spent last night and this morning going through the shows, and I've pulled out a lot of different sequences from the three series. 95% you were involved in, and I'd like to go through them with you
Awesome.
if you're willing.
David's all like, Mark, shut up about politics and the end of the world
No,
with
no, no,
music.
no. I'm just being cognizant of the schedule here because there's a,
Oh,
there's a lot to go through,
and
and
you
I
sent me
really
you,
want your input.
and you sent me the thing this morning, early this morning, and
Wanted to give you a peek.
I know, and I thank you for that. And I was expecting to be so cringed out by it. I was like, oh my
And
God, I was so scared to open anything because, things get dated a year after 2 weeks after you make them, really. And this is like
and
16
how bad
years
was
ago.
it?
I wasn't as cringy as I thought. I was really quite happy with some of it. And it was funny because, you look back and you just think, that's like the work comes flooding in. And when I remember that being really hard. I remember that challenge. And there was one thing I think on Stargate, all the franchises, all the supervisors, John, Michelle, James, myself, anybody who was on, the one thing I think that everyone did really well between the producers, the writers, the directors, all the artists who work on the show, we created some pretty cool shots. Like our shot design was pretty cool. Like I know that shot from First Strike was in there where like Martin said he wanted to do like a 2 minute shot or whatever that was. And people just went, what the? And at the time, how are you going to manage that? And it was something else.
You found your way to pull it off. Are you receiving these images?
Yes, I can see it. And it's just,
So it's the longest sequence I think in the franchise's history.
oh yeah,
Um, and Dinner Beef actually asks a question, a corresponding question. One of the coolest shots in all of the Stargate to me was the Horizon missile. How was it
really.
getting that to come together? Mainly because I know people say it's the longest visual effects shot at that time, and it is. Like,
And at the time to see the planet in the background, everything going through the clouds, like that was it was a big deal. I don't really like those missiles flying off that much, but I like the
oh,
explosion.
here we go.
But that shot was mammoth. And again with the reboot, this is what Martin Gero does, right? He
Yeah,
says, let's do this, and he pushes forward with it and he makes it happen, right? And he
that's
takes
right.
chances, which I don't think as many people do today as should. And that's why the show's going to be killer, I think.
His instincts are in the right spot
Oh yeah.
for
But
sure.
he's also not afraid to do something new. He's not afraid to leap into the unknown per se. You
That's
know,
it.
he's not afraid to go, I see this in my head, I want it to happen. So let's get everybody together, all the brains, and let's make it happen.
For sure. Let's have
You
a
know?
look at another one here.
But that was
So
fun. Oh,
this,
yeah.
I'm not sure that this was your episode. I don't believe
Yeah, it
so,
was.
but
I think
it
this is
was.
Beachhead, right?
This is
Yeah.
Beachhead. Yes. Lower left. I
Yeah.
apologize. How do you make a molten Stargate? I'm assuming you take the asset of the gate itself
Yeah.
and you just dial up the red, or like,
Yeah.
how do you do that? It's I mean, look at it, it's melting underneath.
That's fun. I can't like I think there's a lot of heat distortion going on in front, which is really giving that nice effect. But this episode was actually intimidating for me
Why is
because
that?
I think this was the first Brad Wright written episode that I supervised on. And it was SG-1, and that was like, Michelle Commons, that was her show.
Okay.
And in that episode, that season 9,
That's
which
right.
I supervised episodes on, it was there were a lot of intimidating things about that because I did Crusade, which was Robert's directorial debut on SG-1. And,
Yes.
going into that, him and Michelle had such a great relationship. There would be no reason these days if it was anybody else, and if it was another show or whatever, Robert would have said, well, I don't really know this guy, get him off. I want Michelle, put him on another rotation, on another show. This is my directorial debut on the series. Get Michelle to do my episode. But he didn't do that. And it was like, there was one thing about, not the one thing, but one of the many, many things about Stargate was there was the amount of trust that you were given by Robert, Brad, Joe Paul, Carl, and Martin, that it was just like when I went in and met Brad for the first time before I started season 2 Atlantis, season 9 SG-1 as a production supervisor. I had met Brad before, but meeting him as like an employee of the show. And James brought me up to his office and we just said hi. We've met before and blah, blah, blah.
James Robbins?
James Tishner.
Oh, Tishner. Yes.
He was doing season 2 of Atlantis as well, yes. Myself. And Brad was like, all right, cool, let's get to work. You got a concept meeting in a bit. Like, there was none of this today. It's like, what have you done before? What can you do? There's so much, not distrust, but you have to prove yourself so much over and over again, right? Which becomes disheartening. And I think I've talked about this before where, you come off like awards, and not to tout like awards or any big deal or anything, but you're considered one of the top 4 people in the world at your craft, at a certain point in time. And with Universe, we had 3 nominations in 2 years, 3 Emmy nominations, and then the next year you're scrounging for a job. Like, if it was any other industry, if there was the 4 greatest accountants in the world, perceivably, I don't think they'd have a hard time getting a job, like if, their company, went under. But we would scramble. And, and I've been blessed, I've been lucky, I've always been working for 30 plus years, but, it is, and there are people who aren't. So I'm not really complaining. It's just the way the industry goes. It's just it's a grind more to get work than it is to actually do the work at times.
That's the thing with the creative field. It's
yeah,
here one day, gone the next.
totally.
Feast or famine.
But going back to Brad and Robert, it was like, the amount of trust that they put in. I don't even know if that exists today because you have to prove yourself on everything. If you go in for a job and, it's a bunch of muzzle flashes, people go, have you done muzzle flashes before? Let's see them. If it's a job for this, you have to prove that you've done it. And like nobody just will go, if somebody else is supporting you, I support you too. So let's get to work and let's make something cool. Which was, the thing about Stargate, which I'm sure you've heard with many people. And one of the great things about this as well, is you get to, for so many people, you get to go back to would be one of many people's, best period of times in their life for
Often.
15, 16 years, and
Yeah.
people all always say that, and, go professionally wise, it was such a great time. And it was so nice to have that family aspect that everyone had. And everybody talks about that. And, and so with Beachhead, it was intimidating. And it was Brad. Brad Turner directed that episode, who's also a little bit of an intimidating guy until you get to know him. So, but such a fun episode because we introduced the Supergate, I think.
That is correct. That's exactly right. What a cool thing.
Which was really cool for the lore. And I think in Rob's episode, Crusade, which I mentioned, I think that's where we introduced the Ori ships.
Maybe. We're going to be showing those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was, again, super fun.
I'll be getting to that to them in just a minute here. These are all from a folder that I put together called Damn Cool. Was any of this shot actually them? Like at the opening of this whole thing is them?
Not the whole thing. It transitions to a CG during the pullout.
Okay. So, but that right there is them, and then they switch to digital characters.
Yes, correct. That is a submerged portion of an actual gate that they were all sitting on.
Yeah. You guys built, I think, 1/3 of a Stargate, and then used it for a number of shots later on in the show when you wanted to have it in the foreground.
Yeah.
Or just off to the side. Because one of my frustrations with Atlantis was we had no location Stargate. And so when it was there, it had to be digital. And there was always something about SG-1 that I loved where it could be out of focus in the background. But if it's a digital Stargate, you're putting money on the screen and you better make it front and center. And you don't really feel it as being a part of the shot because it's not there being a part of the shot unless it's there to be the shot.
Yeah, exactly. And I love the fact that for actors, it helps too. And, people don't say it, but it does to have like a real thing there rather than just running through nothing.
Absolutely.
On the grass and just going and looking back and going, I'm seeing this big giant blue screen here.
That's it. That's exactly right. This is Progeny. This is season 3. So you took Atlantis and then made it times 10.
And again, one of the, I remember how tough this shot was to design, which I think is really cool. When I saw that, I went, oh my God, that's pretty cool, actually. And I remember the artist working on the shot when we were prevising it. And he would pull out a little bit, and I just kept pushing him and pushing him. I'm going think about what you want to do, and then go 25, 30 times more. Let's go out. Let's see the whole thing. And a shot like that was just challenging. I know you look back and there's, Atlantis always had a kind of CG look to it a bit, but it's a cool shot.
That's the thing. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. They put the money on screen for sure. So speaking of ships that you could put the money on screen, my favorite ship from the canon, this whole sequence is just extraordinary. So most of the sequences that we're going to be talking about later on are going to be specific shots, but this is one of the few where I went ahead and pulled the whole actual sequence. That cyclone right there is extraordinary. So you have several disciplines coming together for this.
Yeah. And not to mention, the incredible action hero Jen Spence.
Yes.
Action hero in that goddamn suit.
Oh my.
Did such a good job. I remember she was, I don't think that was her hanging. I think that might have been the stunt person on that one, but hanging upside down.
Yeah, for sure. Except for the close-ups.
Yeah.
Man.
But it's so cool. And blowing it, like, again, the writers just came up with cool things like, let's blow out the atrium on the Destiny.
Again. We just fixed it.
And just go, how can we do it? And again, I love that shot where you're coming into the Destiny, creeping in, and you see the fire in there, and it's a nicely blocked shot. I do like it. And I want to sound like a jerk now because I like a lot of the stuff. It's fun.
Well, you guys were you were 17 seasons in to this franchise, the collective you, and I think it shows itself on screen.
Well, I think, and I've always said this with Universe, and whether people liked it or not, and I know there's a divide, and it was very,
sure.
And whether it was ahead of its time, behind its time, I've heard every argument, whether the acting was too good or like, it was a joy to watch everybody work every day and act. But It was a show where every department was working on all cylinders. It really was. And it was a thing where, nobody ever threw their hands up in the air and said, visual effects is going to fix that, or, it's a common occurrence now where people just go, let's send it to this department, you're responsible. It was, every challenge became everyone's challenge, right? And it wasn't separated out so much or pigeonholed, like, we need to do this, so you have to do this, right? It's let's all gather together and work out the ways to accomplish a goal, which is one of the truly rewarding things about that show and the way it was. Instead of just, this is my department, it's not, or it's not my department, and it was so great to work with so many talented people in that way.
Everyone's a team. We're all rowing in the same direction here. This is a cool sequence here.
Travelers.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that ship too. I like that ship.
The Lantian destroyer.
Yeah, I liked it. It was cool. It was all beat up. It's fun.
There was a lot of this whole idea. I'm guessing this is a green screen that he's standing on.
I think it was. I'm pretty sure it was, or it could have just been the stage, and he might have just been rotoed. But it's cool, and like again, not to say anything, but I love that just that down from the one ship to the other. I think it's something that didn't really exist. We were. And not, it was just an aesthetic thing, but, I think we were always, Stargate was kind of, for the ship shots, a lot of very static and grand, and they look great. And one thing when I came in, and the first episode I did of Atlantis was Intruder, I think. Which was that DeLuise? Might have been DeLuise, Peter DeLuise. It might have been. And it was a Jill Paul show. And Intruder just lent itself to be kind of a new style of shooting because it had the two
F-302s.
Yeah, the two F-302s. And
and the Daedalus too.
Yeah. And it was a thing where we had to do this, not hugely elaborate, but a little, cat and mouse thing. And it became a thing where I was, let's do something different. And I started to introduce zooms into the Stargate world in this episode, and a little bit, more frenetic camera work. And people were saying, well, is that too Battlestar like? But I'd never seen Battlestar at the time. And I was just, well, it's kind of, these one-on-one little ships. Let's make it a little bit more lively. And it got a very good response by like Joe and Paul and Brad and everybody else. And it was like, okay, well, let's start expanding the camera movement. And I always wanted, a goal of mine was to always make the ship shots and the exterior space shots, be really entwined with the camera work style of everything else. And so if we had a show that was more claustrophobic, I wanted the outside ship shots to feel like that. If there was more handheld, then I wanted it to feel like that as well. If it was more static, then let's do, kind of that. So it was very intentional. And one thing that I think, even again, I've never seen an episode, which cursed me for that, Battlestar. One thing that Gary Hutzel did, the supervisor on that show, was he said, kind of the same vein, but he went, okay, this is the style of our show. And we're very handheld. We do lots of zooms. And I remember at the time, all the visual effects houses, that he went, okay, well, you have to deal with it. Like, you've got to get on board and figure out a way to track this stuff and everything else. And they did it. And, it was kind of revolutionary, because all of a sudden, kind of the lock-off thing kind of went a little bit out the window, where people were more, okay, we can actually track this in, we can do this. And it kind of shows in universe where, like, there was a lot of times we had moving shots to everything, and there was a lot of more handheld style, which wasn't necessarily, it wasn't emulating Battlestar, but it was just, we definitely had a more handheld style, which there was a lot of things, a lot of tracking involved in that series.
There's a lot. Yeah, and as we moved into the YouTube era, people are used to seeing shaky cam and more dynamic stuff. I think Cloverfield just blew open the door to a lot of that too. So to be perfectly frank, although Battlestar predates it, but it was what people were used to seeing. This may be my single favorite shot, and I still don't know how you did it. I showed this to Louis Ferreira. He was blown away again. My understanding here is that when you're tied in on him here, you're taking what's happening at this moment right here. What's going on? The lighting is being changed.
Yeah.
And you're changing you're removing something from a piece of clothing, or was something digitally? I mean, what's happening in this shot, if you can recall?
I don't know.
Okay.
I think he's in the room with the stones.
And then you switch him.
Tight enough.
I swear you said that something was being taken off of him. And it's the same shot on him. He's suddenly in the SGC corridor, which is where this was shot.
Yeah. Oh, and then he walked. Oh my God! I wish I remembered shooting that shot. I don't. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah. We actually explained it in a Gate World article.
Really?
I'm gonna have to go. Yeah, you took us through that. But I think it's just an extraordinary sequence, because it's all one take on Louis. It's not been cut.
It's very cool. I like it. And to be in
I'll introduce you to the guy who did it.
And then to be in that tight room and not being in that room. Something must have been taken away. Those are practical hallways for sure.
That's right. That's the SGC corridor that's been dressed up.
And those are
Yeah,
the funny leather suits.
that's it.
Wow,
So this is Sateda.
Peter,
Um,
loved it.
Great sequence here. You've got practical explosions, and you've got shaky cam. Obviously, this is probably digitally inserted. You
Yeah,
got the shadow of the ship, and you got the ship itself.
yeah. Oh, I like that. It's fun. It's fun. You know, Satita was such a great show because that was, I think, Robert's debut on Atlantis as
That's
directorial.
correct.
And
Yep.
the episode was so different and fresh for Atlantis because it was like raw. It was like
Yep.
a knockdown, punch
Drag
out,
out.
yeah, fight on the street with Ronan and people getting thrown into telephone poles. And that episode was just it was cool to see Robert's vision come together in that and what he wanted to see. And I think he really captured it. All of his episodes are so great.
I
Like this
agree.
episode in Vegas, and it was cool. It's not a huge shot, but it's just fun. Like you put it in context of the show in Ronan's memory, and it's
Yes.
just cool. And it's just neat.
There's a couple of times in the show where people get engulfed in fire. The other time is Paul McGillian's character Beckett and Sunday.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
but there is I can see that there's some digital explosions in the back behind her. Obviously the glass
yeah.
breaking was that a separate, I'm guessing that was a separate element. And then the front here that kind of engulfs her, that looks like a practical fire element, which is actually very similar to this one from Crusade.
Ooh. Yeah, I saw this in digital. I love this because that is practical elements there. Like the special effects department
Went and shot fire.
went and shot a giant piece of wood with the rolling fire. And, of course, I'm not so crazy about the first shot, but the second shot is cool with the face coming out and it's incorporated into that. I think it looks cool. Like
This
it's
one on the
just,
side here is just mind blowing because
yeah,
you can see that the bedpost is on fire,
yeah.
and it's
And it was just a
just
separate
wild.
element that, yeah, it's neat. I like the side shot way better than the front on, but, it's, it's cool. I like
Yeah.
that. But then it's a bunch of departments coming together, right? And you could say, let's do this all digitally and blah, blah, blah. And, but let's do it together and make the better of the shots.
That's
Because I
it.
would put that up against a shot that you would see on many TV shows today. It's
I
cool.
think that the fire would have progressed somewhat, but
Yeah,
the fact of the matter, I mean, I've got an element here about particle effects. So fire interacting with water, this is
yeah,
tricky.
yeah.
I mean, you have a laser beam from space hitting the ocean. And so you're only going to be able to pull so much off. How does that interact with it? It's cutting through the water. So you've got particleization of the water because liquid
You've
turns
got
into
your
gas.
steam. Yeah.
That's it. And it's
It's
wild.
anybody. The thing is, this is one that is completely dated, but it is. It doesn't look great to me,
No?
but it is kind of cool at the same time. There's something about it, and you put it in the context of a show that was, 17 years ago.
Exactly right. Not every shot is it. Look, let's face facts. You don't have a year and a half like Martin does to do 10 episodes. You were
No.
turning these things out in a matter
Oh
of
yeah.
weeks, and
Yeah.
you have to do. Sometimes you have to look at it and go, "This is the time that we had to do this shot. This is where we
No,
got with
totally.
it. We now have to turn it over." So,
And I
oops, that's
remember in your reviews, you guys would be honest with us, but you would be very supportive and kind of nice about it, I think. You guys were
we
always,
tried.
you didn't trash us as much as we
No.
could have been done at
Well,
times.
we're gonna have some fun with a couple of these for sure. When we get to the creatures, we'll have a couple of those conversations. But there's a lot here that I want to go through in terms of
Oh, my
evolving.
least favorite effect of all time. Oh my God.
Really, you don't
I
care
hate
for
it.
this?
No, I just don't. I don't. I kind of like the cool with Amanda. I like the little veins and whatnot, but I don't like the. I think it was probably done for the time, but the straight in approach,
I
like
see.
you've seen Deadpool and Wolverine.
I've not seen it
That
yet.
cool.
Okay.
Where she puts all her fingers in people's heads and they bulge out and everything, and it's
Oh
like
God. All
that is
right.
cool.
Well, we know where they came from now. So,
Yes, exactly.
so this is an example, I think, of the transporter effect. I've slowed it down where it's really working. In this shot, if you look at Jack, you see his legs being teleported out. Then take a look at this shot here. It's just the top of Thor. Like there's no information underneath. And that's from the same episode. And I'm guessing, is that a time thing? Is that just not considering, oh, we probably would want to attach his legs to this as well? What do you think's happening there?
I don't know, and it's
In the
not
beam?
my episode.
Okay. Okay. That's fair.
I didn't do this one.
Okay.
No,
That's really
I
fair.
don't know. I couldn't guess. Like the one thing that was, or one of the things that was great about the show was that we had signature effects too, you know,
Right.
which were kind of plug and play a little bit. Like, you had, except for the Zap blasts, I remember those being just a nightmare every single time.
Yeah, because people go crazy.
Yeah, you need the specific light arcing that came with them, but the way they were built, they were all like particle systems in there and whatnot. It was an interesting. A friend of mine designed that effect, and she was crazy, and she made life hard on everybody. But thank you, Barb. But we had stat blasts, we had like
Yeah.
the transporter,
The rings.
happening, the rings, which were very cool. I still think the rings were kind of the best way to get in and out. They were
I
awesome.
think they're great. I think that
They
they're
look
one. I
so
think they're one of the
cool.
coolest effects that you guys did. Yeah.
And they did such a good job early on that just looks like CG cloth, doesn't it?
I don't think so. That's a CG cloth. Oh, I guess on the tip of it.
On the tip, yeah. I know his hand was wrapped, but then his hand would have been painted out, and a CG covering would have been put on that end there.
There is something to be said for really going for it, because I've seen, like, I remember for MASH when Hawkeye has his dream that he's lost his hands, and they're just covered in gauze. There ain't nothing covered in gauze here, covering up the elements. You guys actually removed that and then painted that on, and it's a much more effective thing than just pretending that his everything beneath his wrists have been cut off, even though we're staring right at them. So I have to appreciate the artistry here in saying, you know what, we're going to go for it. We're going to actually suggest to audiences that we have just maimed our leading man.
Yeah, it was cool. I did a TV series once. If anybody ever sees it, but it was called Sacred Lies, where our lead of the show had both of her hands cut off. So we had to do 10 episodes of getting rid of her hands.
Digital replacement.
She was in. It was fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man,
and originally we came up with that's kind of cool. I kind of like that effect.
Yeah.
But I like if there's purpose to it, right? If it's just going in slow like that, I always hated telegraphing shots.
Mm,
Like I remember when lock-offs were a huge thing and everybody locked off the camera for a visual effects shot. You would come to any show and you would see camera movement around, they'd be panning around, and you get to the shot that just is a lock-off shot of the gate, and you go, oh, I know something's going to happen
right,
here.
exactly.
Because you're
Something's got to
telegraphing that
happen.
you're doing a visual effects shot, right? Which now it's less so.
You get the language of that after a while.
Yeah.
But now the resolution is so good, you can pull back, and get a larger thing, and then just animate the parts that you want and just bring the camera in tighter, or
Absolutely.
do a parallax.
Yeah.
So
And before, even if back in the day, if you tried to do that, it would feel more pan and scanny, right?
exactly.
That people really did not like. But now you can actually punch in and you can go in and track the shots before and after and get that same style of camera
So
movement.
cool.
But before, like even that shot it's less telegraphing. This is one of my favorite shots of all time.
Oh, with the food.
Yeah, I just love the peanut. And then
Matthew and Fred.
yeah, Matthew and Fred, and like this was, I think I've talked about Fred before, but it was
Yes.
a creature that was designed, modeled, animated, composited, all by one person, pretty much, was Craig Vanden.
Wow. Craig is so good.
He was just a one-man army.
Yeah.
Like this was when he was out on his own with his own company.
Wow.
And he just took this one creature and just went for it. And I think it was this. And because we talked about the difference between TV and film.
Yep.
But I think it was this creature where I was down in an award show once. And I think it was for this episode where I think Transformers was big at the time.
Okay.
And it wasn't the Emmys, it was more VES where you celebrate both film and TV.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was Pirates of the Caribbean. And we had so many people coming up to us just saying, you know what, you guys have closed the gap on movies with that one creature. And I had people from like Sony, other companies just going, this is probably the best creature I've CG creature I've seen in a long time. And you had artists from everywhere that were getting in touch with me, just complimenting that one creature. And it was so nice to get that feedback at the time.
Wow.
So we started the gap closure. Somebody else finished it now, where the gap is now between film and TV, but we started.
Well, there are so many amazing creatures that the franchise has done, and I've gotten a few of them here. I mean, this is a complicated shot because you've got the Asgard inserted into this scene, and then you've got the camera flashes going off, which I assume you would have done digitally, right? So as not to...
I would think so, yeah. And, and again, this was Craig before this, but Thor.
Yes.
Back when Craig was at Image Engine.
Yeah.
Where Thor was introduced, as a puppet and then as a moving CG talking character. I think it has to be the first integrated CG walking, talking character on television. They got that much screen time?
It's up there. Well, Heimdall with Terrell at the end of season 5, so that's 2001. It's the same critter, and it's just wild.
Yeah, but to do a walking, talking, to integrate it as well as they did at the time, I think was just brilliant. And they just, that.
Yeah, that's true.
Like I remember doing things like Reto in season 2 or 3 or whatever, and that was like, it was in the environment, I think. But like to actually do something as a fully realized CG character was
Mhm.
impressive for television at the time.
Absolutely.
That's kind of cool. I saw this today and I went, that's kind of fun.
It's an awesome little piece.
And I kind of don't mind the smoky transition thing. It's kind of neat. I think we did this in-house too. I think it was part of
Wow.
the in-house department that did that. I
I
believe it was for
do
sure.
you s- do you see the seed machine? So if you look at it at the left near the light, the little
Yeah.
a little edge of it disappears in the transition.
Whoa.
Yeah. I cut two shots together. So I had never noticed that before because I had never like I sold this prop, but I didn't
Oh yeah.
it's the
That's
things you don't
crazy.
see because it was those shots were separate. I combined them. I
Ah.
deleted the cutaway. So it's little things like that
And
you never even notice.
wow. I wonder. Oh, that would have been. Yeah, that would have been eating into it to get it away. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for
Like
sure.
I know why it happened. It was just a mismatch, but interesting. Oh my God,
Oh my
Robert
golly.
Carlyle and his big rumbling, tumbling stampede.
Stampede, Earl. Oh
You know,
man, what a sequence.
for creatures, that's just kind of a fun little like. It doesn't mean anything. I don't know, but it's just fun. Like
They're
the
not
creatures themselves.
Gallimimus.
And I think it was atmosphere visual effects
Yes.
that did this sequence, and it was kind of it was so neat at the time. Like I worked with them heavily on oh it was post Stargate, but
Yeah.
Primeval New World where we did dinosaurs like
Oh,
crazy
okay.
all the time. But it was just it's fun. I like that one foot that you could see in the foreground just comes into focus a little bit in the side shot. You just see
It's the
a
only one that's not obstructed by dust.
yeah, you
That's
just see
so
a
funny.
oh, I never liked this guy.
You
He's too
didn't.
lumbering. No,
He's too
I was
what?
like, he was too lumbering. He couldn't get around very much. I know he's supposed to be intimidating, but he's just I was never a super fan. I kind of like the way he looks in that profile, in that 50-50.
It's the eyes. I mean, yes,
Yeah.
like here he's more menacing, but when you really get a close up on the eyes, especially in the profile, you get the sense of a gentle creature.
And I
At
think
least I do.
and I think this was Craig as well.
Okay.
Oh, and he does his little he opens his eyes a little bit, and I think he
Uh-huh.
did a little snoot thing as well.
Uh-huh. Yeah. He's sniffing.
Yeah. 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 I just wasn't a fan of him over why does he have six legs?
They were wanting to be different.
I
Yeah.
know. Oh, the plant
Attack
thing.
of the Plants.
Cloverdale. Oh my God, this was
Yeah.
such a challenging episode. Oh my God, that doesn't look great, but
Oh, come on.
that was such a challenging episode. I just remember this was a hard episode. And
Really?
conceptually, like, yeah, these plant things, and this was another Brad episode. Brad wrote this episode, I remember,
This
and
is
it
one of my
was.
favorites.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, it's fantasy. You know, we see them
it
all
really
back on
is.
Earth, and everyone's in a small town together, and
Oh
um,
yeah, and the
yeah,
wedding and everything.
exactly
Yeah.
right. Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
same town as
So
Once Upon a Time. I think it's actually called Cloverdale.
we
Um,
shot it in Cloverdale, in
that's
actual
it.
Cloverdale. I remember that. And
It's
it
the
was like
Hallmark town.
Scott gets bitten by something or gets,
Exactly right. Exactly.
yeah. But the concept of this open field it was tough to create all that space with all that action going on of the vines. It was just it was a tough episode. I remember it wasn't one of my favorite things that I've ever done. That guy's interesting. Ooh,
So, not my favorite of dragons,
no,
but you know when Is this more of a time thing, or what do you think when you look at a sequence like this?
I don't know. The quest wasn't mine.
Oh,
So
okay.
quest 1 and 2, and I don't know how much. It was a two-parter, it must have been.
Yes.
So there must have been a
Yep.
lot of stuff in it. I don't really remember. Was that the whole Merlin thing?
Yes, that's
Or
right.
it was. I remember seeing it. Uh, I just think there was a lot going on in that episode. There had to have
So a
been.
lot of deliverables.
I think so, yeah. And I'm not
Okay.
even sure. Couldn't tell you who did that. Oh, little blue guys. Blue guys are
So
fantastic.
the Nakai, these things are so friggin' cool. My
I love them.
understanding is that the skeleton is actually the prawns.
I don't
And
think that's true.
you don't
Is
think
that
that's
really
true?
true? No.
Okay.
I think
I was
they're.
talking with Craig about it, and I swear that he had said that, that Image Engine had already had the infrastructure in place from um uh District, is it District 9?
District 9,
Um
yeah. Yeah.
and to make this thing possible.
Well, I think the infrastructure may be meaning the pipeline, but I don't think, and
Okay.
I think all the elements were all specific to this creature. And I
Oh,
remember
okay.
when District 9 was getting a buzz, and I don't think it was really out yet, but because this episode was coming out, we actually took Robert and Brad to Image Engine to get a sneak peek of
Wow.
the prawns and what they were doing to sell them on this could be done on our show.
Wow. Yeah.
And the skeletons are cool. I think like I remember the contact sheets that they would send us where like for every element, here's what we're thinking the eyes was, here's what we're thinking, like it was like fish like creatures,
Yes.
every different element, and we go through with them and say we like this, like let's incorporate this, and I think they're cool. I love them. I love when they interact with people. They're
Yeah,
so
they
fun.
work. I just think that they work
And
so insanely well.
and it was such a mandate with Universe that we don't do guys in rubber suits for aliens, right?
You're too far out.
We made it specifically impossible that it couldn't be a dude in a rubber suit because he has like you can see right through his arms. His waist is,
That's right.
skinnier than mine.
It just wouldn't work.
It just wouldn't work. Oh my
This
God.
is
Right
an
again.
extraordinary sequence because you've got you've got Shadow,
Yeah. Got a tight hallway.
a tight hallway,
Got a
and
handheld camera.
uh-huh.
And you've got interaction with the set, which is brilliant. That's Craig again, and that's just cool. Like the way he climbs up, the way he stops and pauses, like almost like I remember talking to Craig about this at times. Like, and Craig always comes up with these wacky ideas. Should he stop for a beat and turn back and like, hey, come get me?
Screw
like,
you.
Who has the upper hand? And you see it in there in that performance of a character, right? Like he just stops and goes, hey.
Yeah, almost like come chase me,
Yeah, exactly. And that was like, a specific conversation that I know Craig and I had. And my memory's horrible, so maybe we didn't, but I'm sure we did. Is
That's
like,
wild.
we're going to pause here, like take this little beat because, nothing's there and we wouldn't have shot a stand-in or anything. This was just an empty hallway. But like incorporating that into the way the camera just pauses on that beat is brilliant. Like
That's it.
I'm sorry,
And
it's not my brilliance.
You can
else's.
see the you supervise this, Mark. You can see the soldiers like he follows the the Ursini as he moves. Like the muzzle is pointed in one direction, then it goes another, then another, and it just works.
Yeah,
So,
and I remember that would have been an Andy direct episode. I know that's Andy Makita. I
okay.
know, and but I love the way the handheld the style just moves from side to side and then up. It's nice. But then you have to think about those things. Like, an artist could just go, all right, let's get them through and blah, 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 and ignore those little pauses where the camera pauses, right? But
That's
Craig
right.
wasn't like that at all. He put that little pause and turned back, and I just love that. Hey, oh, this shot. Like
So I
love.
imagine this clothing is digital.
Yes, yeah.
Wow.
I remember we scanned Louis and Elise in their outfits and everything, and we
Wow.
had full scans of them at the time. Which wasn't as easy to do back then as it is now. Now it's a piece of cake. Like you can scan
Man.
it. But I love the clothes on that guy. And like I remember in the scene, it was the back and forth between I think it was Brian interrogating.
That's right.
And the back and forth was just brilliant. You felt like the two actors, considering that our CG character is an actor,
Yeah.
is there. And it was one of the things with Universe as well, where, you talk to directors and everybody's concerned about shot count and volume and everything else. And, my biggest thing was we need to, if we're going to put CG characters in here, we have to treat them like they're one of the actors. We can't avoid them, and then just cut to them just standing there for one shot. You have to treat them as if it was a real actor, like give them their appropriate coverage. Let the editor deal with it how they want to, but you can't just say this is a specific CG character shot. We can only use this a certain amount of times. And the back and forth, I remember the camera panned back and forth between Brian and it was just cool. It would be what you would do if there were two actors sitting there, right?
Well, you got to give the actor time to breathe, even if the actor doesn't exist, because sooner or later, a digital creator is going to come in and create that performance.
Yeah, and you want the appropriate coverage too. Like you want it to be. You don't want it to be fake, as if it wouldn't be an actor that was actually sitting there doing this.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I think it was cool. He just had an awesome amount of aggression to him.
Absolutely.
It's cool. This is so much fun.
This has been a treat to share these with you.
Oh my God, we're almost out of time.
I know. I've got another show coming up in 9 minutes, but I do have a couple of fan questions for you, if that's okay.
Oh, totally. Love it.
Marcia Middleton, as a fan of mermaid lore, I must ask, can you share a memory or two about your work on Siren?
Siren. I did season 1 of Siren, and I remember loved it, by the way. Amanda directed a few episodes.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure she did. They had already shot the pilot, and it was a challenge for us because they were having a hard time. They wanted to do a practical tale at first, and it was bubbly. It didn't work, and so we went full on mermaids. Like pretty much, they were the actresses there, but we digitally did their
enhanced
makeup and did everything, and and they were in tanks. They were in all over the place. It was such a fun show. Like it was a challenge to do at the time. And there were a lot of mermaids. And our lead actress, she could hold her breath for a long time. And we'd actually shoot them in the water, like doing swimming and stuff like that, and just use that facial performance to act, and then just do everything around the acting. It was a fun show to work on. I loved it. It went for like 3 or 4 seasons, I think.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. But thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Marcia. Matthew Hammond, when how do you determine if a shot is going to be practical, visual effects, a mixture of the two? Is it a question of cost? Is it a question of time? Is it a question of always what looks the best? Is it different every moment to moment?
I like to think and hope that, at least in the Stargate days, it was a question of whatever's going to look the best.
Okay.
I think like I said, and I've touched on this already, is like shots were discussed in the olden times. People would gather around a room and we'd say, what's the best approach to this shot? What's going to make it look the best on screen? And everybody had their opinion, everybody had their input, and everybody's input was valued too, which is interesting because I think I've told this story before, which I'm sorry, but
it's okay.
On one show I was working on, we had a spaceship, and it came time to the cut, and this ship was built a certain way, and the producer wanted the ship to move have this maneuver. And I regretfully told him, no, the ship can't do that because it's not built that way. And he got mad at me kind of and said, but that's what it says in the script. And he wouldn't change he was dead firm on the ship had to do this maneuver. And even if the ship was built that way or not. And, that's that kind of inflexibility that hurts things, right? Whereas Stargate, it was always, there's a wall in front, let's figure out the best way around it. Is it dig? Yeah. Is it around this side or over top? Everybody's opinions are valid, and let's figure out the problem instead of, I'm just saying there is no problem.
Right. It's not your project, it's our project.
And because it's written exactly like that on the script, it can change. It's a fluid thing to make the best product. And so I like to think on the show that it was for whatever was best for the screen. And I think everybody did a great job of that.
Mark, thank you so much. This has been a
Thank
treat,
you.
As always. It is a shame. It is criminal that I have taken so long to get you back.
Oh, no, not at all. It's so much fun.
The amount of, I almost said content, the amount of work that you guys created that fans still enjoy to this day and are rediscovering now through Netflix again.
Which is wild. It's crazy.
It hit the top 10 in week 2 or 3 of it being on the platform, SG-1. Wow. It's like, my gosh. It's extraordinary. And
I think
there's some immortality there.
There will always be a place for good stories. And that comes first and foremost, right? If the stories lack, there's so much garbage out there where I watch a lot of TV and movies and just wondered to myself, how did this get made? Why is it made? And it just becomes baffling. But, everybody with Brad and Robert and Joan Paul and Carl and Martin, it seemed limitless about where their imaginations could take everyone and still tell a good story and still be compelling. And that's the number one thing, I think. And that's what will still capture people. And when the new show comes out, it's going to be friggin' fantastic. So
we are very blessed.
I hope the audience builds with the new Netflix popularity, and they're gonna have such a success. It's gonna be crazy. And I'm still proud to be a part of the franchise, and still proud to have such wonderful people follow what we've done.
Yes, sir. Mark, thank you.
Thank you so much, David, and thank you to anybody who's watching out there.
Absolutely. There's plenty of people watching.
And if nobody's watching out there, it's just a conversation between you and me, and we could do
There are 55 people watching right now.
How many?
Absolutely. 55.
Really? Well, that's crazy.
Yes, we'll have you back on later this year. I promise.
Well, thank you so much to everyone who's watching, and thank you for being fans of the show, the franchise, and continue on with it because it is truly so close to everybody's heart.
Agreed. Thank you so much, sir. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the show on this, and I'll be in touch with you. Okay.
All right. Thank you, David.
Good to see you, my friend. Be well. Bye-bye. Everyone, that's Mark Savela, Visual Effects Supervisor, Stargate SG-1, Atlantis, and Universe. My name is David Reed. You're watching the Stargate Oral History Project. Thank you to my amazing moderators for pulling this one off. Thank you to Anthony, Marcia, Raj, Enigma. We have Ben Robinson of Master Replicas coming on in just a moment here to share the 0-point module prop replica prototype that they have. So we're going to get over to Ben on the other page in just a moment here. But appreciate you tuning in. We're going to keep these things going. My name is David Reed for Dial the Gate, and I'll see you on the other side.